West Asia is on edge after the killing of Hezbollah chief Nasrallah, with temperatures and rhetoric peaking amid concerns on the next step forward. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu say they have settled the score, but there's no end to continuous airstrikes by the Israel Air Force. Israeli strikes have continued on Beirut's southern suburbs, sending large clouds of smoke over the city. In Israel, air raid sirens sounded across the center of the country, including Tel Aviv. As it anticipates a response, the Israeli military has said that it intercepted a missile fired from Yemen that triggered the air raid sirens. Iran's axis of resistance has condemned the killing and vowed gruesome revenge. Hamas and Yemen-based Houthi rebels have said Nasrallah's assassination will only strengthen resistance. The Houthis have said that the killing of Nasrallah will strengthen their determination to confront their Israeli enemy.
We confirm to our dearest martyr, Hassan Nasrallah, and all his fellow martyrs in Lebanon and Palestine that we will remain stable and patient, and their blood will not be in vain.
Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that assassinating Nasrallah became an essential condition for Israel to achieve its war goals. Netanyahu claimed that Nasrallah's elimination would not only facilitate the return of residents of the northern Israel, but also promote the return of our hostages, as he called, held in Gaza. As the war nears the one-year mark, he emphasized that this is a historic turning point.
Citizens of Israel, these are great days. We are at what appears to be a historic turning point. A year ago, on October 7, our enemies attacked us and thought that Israel was on the way to extinction. A year later, blow after blow, achievement after achievement, they realize how far their hopes have faded. Israel is on the rise. We are winning. We are determined to continue to strike at our enemies, return our residents to their homes, and return all our hostages.
Meanwhile, thousands gathered in Iraqi capital Baghdad to protest and mourn the killing of the Hezbollah leader. In Tehran, posters of Nasrallah were put up bearing the slogan, "Hezbollah is alive." People chanted slogans against Israel and America. Amid widespread concern of an all-out regional war, diplomatic efforts to pacify tensions are at top gear. UN Chief Antonio Guterres has said he is gravely concerned by the dramatic escalation of events in Beirut in the last 24 hours. Russia, China, and other countries have called for restraint. And to discuss more, we're being joined by Colonel David Desroches. He's live from Washington. He is a former Deputy Director for Peacekeeping in the Office of the Secretary of Defense, and he's also the professor at the Near East South Asia Center for Strategic Studies. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Now, let me begin by asking you, Israel is continuing with its strikes in Lebanon, and Iran's Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has said that Nasrallah's killing would be avenged. And let me focus on this. His path in fighting Israel would be continued by other militants. It's most certain it is the biggest escalation we know. What kind of response are we looking at from Iran?
Well, to date, we haven't seen anything which would seem to imply that rather than an axis of resistance, which is what Iran and Hezbollah thought they had, an alliance among equals, what you've really got is a situation where Iran's Arab proxies, Hezbollah foremost amongst them, was a tool to serve Iranian interests. There will be some sort of performative act of revenge, but Iran had been counting on Lebanese Hezbollah as their insurance policy to prevent an attack upon Israel. And Iranian strategic culture is dominated by the idea of protecting another or preventing another attack on Iran's homeland as they suffered in the war with Iraq. So I think what we're likely to see are terrorist incidents directed against Israeli and Jewish interests, which the Iranian state views as one and the same overseas in places like South America, Africa, or Europe.
Right. Now, let me also ask you, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that Israel is at a historic turning point, and this is after Nasrallah's killing, and that could change the balance of power in the region. How do you analyze this comment?
Well, I think what he means is that historically Israel has had to be very wary of how it deals with Iran's various proxies in Syria, in Iran, in Iraq, in Yemen, and of course Hamas, which is more of an indigenous organization that Iran adopted. But now the main threat to Israel was Lebanese Hezbollah. They had the advanced missiles. They had the ability to fire a large number of rockets and artillery shells into northern Israel. And they had the ability with some of the more advanced missiles to strike all of Israel. So it looks as though that is being taken off the table. And that will mean that Israel will be in a position where it can pursue its security interests without fear of effective retaliation from next door.
Now, President Joe Biden has called the Israeli strike that killed Nasrallah a measure of justice for his 4-decade reign of terror. Now, while the administration is also trying to look forward for a ceasefire, diplomatic solution, how do you think U.S. will now act?
Well, I think that had President Biden been consulted in advance, he would have said, don't do this. But now that it's happened, Hezbollah has a lot of American blood on its hand, and Hezbollah is in large measure responsible for the dysfunctionality of the Lebanese government due to the fact that they basically operate as a state within a state. They've assassinated Rafiq Hariri. They've killed journalists who have exposed their corruption. The port blast in Beirut was basically their ammunition storage facility that hit Beirut with the power of an atomic bomb. And then the power that they wield in the parliament has prevented Lebanon from forming an effective government. So aside from the U.S. interests in avenging those who've been killed by Hezbollah over the years, the fact is Lebanon is a failed state in large measure because of Hezbollah. So I think that there's an opportunity here for Lebanon to have a substantial reset and regain its rightful place as a country whose government matches its natural beauty and hospitality.
Right. Now, before I let you go, my last question would be, now, that being said, how does this escalation impact the ceasefire deal and the hostage release? Now, according to Prime Minister Netanyahu, this is going to promote the hostage release. What do you think?
I don't think there's any connection. I think that this is a separate theater of war. Hamas took the hostages without reference to Lebanese Hezbollah, and Lebanese Hezbollah took several days to join in the fight against Israel on behalf of Hamas because they wanted to see if that uprising had legs. They've always been disconnected in all but the most performative and rhetorical sense.
All right, that was called Beirut. Thank you for joining us this morning and giving your insights.
Thank you.